The Galactic Coalition had seen many wars, countless conflicts between the stars. But when the humans arrived on the scene, the universe was still unsure what to make of them. At first, they seemed a relatively peaceful species, curious explorers with a knack for invention. But like any species, when provoked, they fought. The Krell Empire learned that the hard way. Captain Xarrak, commander of the Krell warship Devourer, stood on the bridge, surrounded by his officers. The war was in full swing, and the Krell had been crushing opposition for centuries. They had subjugated dozens of species, forcing them to bend the knee or face extinction. When the humans had entered the conflict, the Krell assumed they would be no different, fragile, weak, and easily dominated. What the Krell hadn't accounted for was humanity's intensity. Report, Captain Xarrak growled, staring at the holographic display. It showed several Krell fleets closing in on the human defense line in the Galactic sector. Victory seemed inevitable, until it wasn't. "Sir," an officer said nervously, his eyes glued to his data feed. "The humans, they've launched everything." Xarrak frowned, his scaled brow furrowing. "Everything? What do you mean? Be specific." The officer swallowed. "Every ship, every fighter, every drone, every missile. They're throwing it all at us, sir." Xarrak's lips curled into a smile, his fangs gleaming in the dim light of the warship. "Foolish. They're desperate. They know they can't win, so they're trying to overwhelm us. Typical weaklings." The officer hesitated. "It's not just their fleets, sir. We're picking up strange signals. Planetary defense systems, ground-based artillery. Entire continents are arming themselves, launching mass volleys from the surface." Xarrak waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Primitive tactics. We'll crush them like the rest." But something felt off. The humans had always been unpredictable, true, but this level of response? It was beyond what the Krell had encountered before. They were no strangers to battle. Species often fought harder when they were cornered, but the humans weren't fighting like a cornered animal. They were fighting like an apex predator. On the outskirts of the Galactic sector, the human fleet surged forward, a cacophony of organized chaos. Admiral Sarah Holt stood on the command deck of the HSF Relentless, the lead ship in humanity's Third Fleet. She watched the incoming enemy forces with a grim determination. "They're not going to see this coming," she muttered, hands clasped behind her back. Her second-in-command, Commander Malik, stepped up beside her. "Admiral, we've committed all available forces. Ground batteries, orbital cannons, even the planetary railguns. Are you sure about this?" Holt didn't take her eyes off the display. "They invaded our worlds. They slaughtered civilians. We're going to make sure they regret ever setting foot in human space." Malik nodded. He knew better than to question her resolve. Holt had been in command during some of the most brutal engagements in the war, and she had a reputation among her crew. If Holt said it was time to hit back, it was going to be with overwhelming force. The Krell fleets continued their advance, confident in their superiority. But as they drew closer to the human lines, they began to realize just how wrong they had been. It started with the fighters. Thousands of them, more than any species in the Coalition had ever fielded in a single battle. The swarms of human ships filled the void of space, small but fast, darting between the Krell destroyers, overwhelming their defenses. Krell cruisers exploded in rapid succession, unable to keep up with the sheer number of enemy fighters. Then came the missiles, millions of them. They appeared on every sensor, coming from every direction, launched from ships, orbital platforms, even planetary silos. Some were small, some massive, but they all had one thing in common. They were headed straight for the Krell Armada. "Shields at maximum," Captain Xarrak bellowed. "Focus all defensive firepower on incoming ordnance." But it was too late. The humans had launched so many weapons that no defense could hold. Krell ships lit up the dark void like stars going supernova, one after another. The Devourer shook violently as explosions rippled across its hull. Captain Xarrak gripped the edge of his command seat, his eyes wide in disbelief. How? How is this possible?" "Sir," another officer cried out. "Our reinforcements, they've been intercepted. The humans—" "I don't care about reinforcements," Xarrak snarled. "Destroy those ships. All of them. But the humans weren't just attacking the Krell armada. They had fired on the Krell supply lines, their staging grounds, even their homeworld. Every planet that had aided the Krell war machine was being pummeled by an unrelenting barrage of firepower. This wasn't war. This was annihilation. Admiral Holt watched the chaos unfold with cold satisfaction. "They call us fragile," she murmured, almost to herself. "But they don't understand." Malik turned to her, brow furrowed. "Admiral?" Holt met his gaze. "They've never seen what we can do when we stop holding back. To the Krell, this is madness. Overkill, even. But to us, this is just what it takes to survive." On the Krell homeworld of Caraxes Prime, the devastation was immediate. Massive human warheads fell from the sky, each impact causing shockwaves that tore through entire cities. The Krell, once proud conquerors, found themselves in the midst of a cataclysm of their own making. Captain Xarrak's warship burned, chunks of the hull blown away by relentless human fire. His officers lay dead around him, the bridge in flames. He staggered to his feet, staring out at the destruction. What was left of the Krell fleet was in full retreat, but there was no escape. The humans hadn't just defeated them, they had obliterated them. This is overkill," Xarrak whispered, his voice filled with horror. But for the humans, it wasn't overkill. It was justice. It was survival. It was what they did best when pushed to the brink. And in the quiet void of space, among the wreckage of the once mighty Krell Empire, one truth became clear. Never underestimate what humans call overkill.